that means there's no accountability. So the reason that we are actually being transparent with everything, right from not only who grows your coffee, it's traceable. You also know, like, what's their story, why are they doing this, how is it actually helping the community that they are doing this
Right.
in.
Hello, I am Ashwin, a food photographer and also the host of the Behind the Plate podcast that you're listening to right now. Now, I'm trying something new. I'm trying video. Now, the conversation itself is just a conversation, but generally with these intros, I write them down first and then I record it as I'm seeing it and read it out loud because I'm just horrible at memorizing my lines. So, I'm just going to do the same thing but on video. I hope it's fine. Now, today I have something different for you where we are talking to Madhu, who works in the coffee industry for a European coffee company. Now, coffee is near and dear to my heart for those who don't know me. And Madhu is a friend of mine who I met through this interest in specialty coffee. Now, she does some really important work in a very unconventional sector of the coffee industry that most of us don't even know about. In this episode, we talk about her journey in the industry as well as how something even as fancy as specialty coffee can intersect with social and environmental issues as well. And this was a really interesting conversation. I really hope you enjoyed. Hi, Madhu. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. So, can we jump right into it? Can you share a bit about your journey in the food industry and, or the coffee industry, I should say, and what inspired you to pursue this path?
Hello, hello. I think it started with the food industry. So after I had like a little course in my bachelor's when I was doing my chemical engineering, which was food technology. ஸோ அது வந்து ஆல்மோஸ்ட் யாருமே அந்த எலெக்டிவ் எடுக்கல. ஏன்னா அது ரொம்ப ஈஸியாக பாஸ் ஆகுற எலெக்டிவ். தட் வாஸ் தி ஒன்லி
Hmm.
மோட்டிவேஷன் இஃப் யூ ஹேட் டு டேக் தி எலெக்டிவ். ஆனால் அதில் என்ன படிக்க என்னலாம் இருந்துச்சோ அதில் தட் வாஸ் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங் டு ஸ்டடி. ஸோ அது படிக்கிறது
Hmm.
ஜாலியாக தான் இருந்துச்சு. அண்ட் ஐ
Okay.
டென்ட் நோ வெதர் இட் வாஸ் கோயிங் டு ரியலி change my life or whatever, but it was fun to study it. So
Hmm.
that was there, and then after that I did a little internship
Hmm.
after everybody in my college got placed and did
Hmm.
were doing all kinds of jobs. I was still not
Hmm.
like very satisfied with which was the path to
Hmm.
follow. So
Yeah.
adla, when I was doing an internship with Satyam Cinemas, I was working on a lot of little projects that were focused on bringing people together through food.
Hmm.
So bringing food
Okay.
entrepreneurs together through like a event or through any initiative,
Hmm.
one way or the other. So I think
Hmm.
the idea of building a community was what was very attractive in the food business, and food always brings people together. அது நீ ஷெஃபாக இருக்கலாம், இல்லை நீ வந்து சாப்பிட்றவங்களா இருக்கலாம், இல்லை whoever. There was always this sense of you can build a community. So I think
Hmm.
when I was doing my masters, I just got up one day. I could decide whatever thesis I wanted to do. And I wanted to do something between coffee and cocoa.
Hmm.
And then I realized, okay, let's just do coffee. And that's how the whole coffee journey, the non romanticized version started.
Okay, right. So, what is it that you do currently when it comes to coffee?
The same thing, like I work with a company called This Side Up, and
Hmm.
we buy and sell coffee we buy coffee from 15 countries and we sell them to more than 28 countries in Europe. What I do
Okay.
is um, find material that can be used to sell this coffee. So like find the truth. That's what I
Hmm.
feel like I am doing. Being able to collect all this information, being able to tell the stories about these people and why we should be selling their coffee. That's kind of the
Hmm.
essence of the job.
Okay.
But the actual work is also like writing, talking to these producers, doing little projects with them, for them.
Hmm. Hmm.
um yeah, any opportunity to kind of spotlight them is my job.
Okay. Now, that's like a very like unique job that you described there. So can you tell me more about like uh so why that is like important to the company? Because like that's not how like companies usually work, at least here in like India. So like what makes it important to them that they'd have to like hire a person like you to like do that? What like impact does it have on the business?
That I have, I that I am. I have the time and effort to actually sit and talk to these people.
Mm.
So, as a company, before I joined or before the current three of us joined, there were only two of them that were also talking to producers and doing sales.
Okay.
So that means that there was not enough time for them to actually spotlight and collect all this information because there's so much happening at the origin. There is so much
Hmm.
happening in these production countries. Equally, there's also so much happening in the business. Like you have to sell the coffee to keep the company running. So I think because there wasn't enough, that means there's no accountability. So the reason that we are actually being transparent with everything, right from not only who grows your coffee, it's traceable. You
Hmm.
also know, like, what's their story, why are they doing this, how is
Hmm.
it actually helping the community that they are doing this
Right.
in.
Hmm.
And also we even publish their phone numbers and email addresses
Oh,
on the
okay.
website. So that
Great.
means that if I'm making a claim that this is traceable and I know the person that's growing the coffee, I can actually just
Hmm.
simply share the information and you could call them or message them or do whatever as
Hmm.
a producer, I mean as a consumer, to understand more about your coffee.
Hmm.
So I think
Right.
this whole company itself is built with transparency as the core value. Every time you try to click a button in
Okay.
one of the websites that we have, there is always an option to
Hmm.
keep reading more. So there is always an option to keep digging
Okay.
deeper. And if you cannot dig deeper in the
Hmm.
website, then there's always the phone number of the producer that you can message
Okay.
or call or
Right.
visit. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's it.
Hmm. Okay. That's like really interesting. So that also like paints a picture of like what kind of people you sell to as well, right? Is it like a would you say like it's like a super like niche market, or is it also like does are you like aiming at like normal people who buy coffee as well?
No, so we sell the coffee to roasters. That we have all kinds of roasters
Ah.
that buy coffee
Okay.
from
Right.
one bag to, like, I don't know, 100
Hmm.
bags to big orders. So,
Okay.
and then they have their own set of customers who are either cafes who are, or they have their own roastery. So just people who walk into a coffee shop. So they sell it to,
Okay.
yeah, all kinds of places.
Right. Okay.
So we only supply the raw material to someone that still potentially uses it for something else.
Ah, okay. Right, okay. I kind of misunderstood that. I thought you were also like selling directly to like customers there. So you sell so you source the coffee from the farms, and so you get it all like you're kind of like a hub where people can find like different kinds of coffee, I guess, for like the roasters that can. So they buy it from you, then they do their own roast, and then they sell it to their customers, or whether it's cafes or independent roasters or whatever. Did I get that right?
Yeah, yeah, so we sell green coffee.
Ha, okay. Makes sense. Now, when it comes to your work, you said that you like started like your journey started with like interning at Satyam here in like Chennai, and now you're running around in countries like so many European countries, and like you're now set out for your next trip in like a month. So how did you like make the jump? How did it get from just interning there to like working full time in coffee? How did you like make the connection to this?
Yeah, so it was always on a very broad meta answer is following the crumbs of
Hmm.
whatever was coming my way. And it
Hmm.
started with Satyam because Anga there was an opportunity to even think about something that was um, beside the everyday business of like beside the everyday of how you think about food. There were like people
Hmm.
that were entrepreneurs, there were innovators that had actually traveled to all these different places and come back, and they were creating something. So there was
Hmm.
always I think every company or every person that I worked with until now
Hmm. Hmm.
always set the bar higher for the next journey. Like
Hmm.
so I did a master's in the Netherlands, and then I was working with working with someone in the university for about a year,
Okay. Right.
remotely, but it was in
Hmm.
academia, and it was still related to like coffee, but also from the perspective of thinking about human rights and how,
Hmm. Okay.
the how things are organized in the coffee, in the agricultural space and in the coffee space, and how people are treated, like those who work there.
Hmm.
So there,
Right.
one of the companies that were supposed to be the best practices was the setup, and my
Okay.
supervisor
Right.
told me about it, and then I didn't even know the
Hmm.
setup existed until then. But like, there were all these crumbs that keep coming your way, and
Hmm.
I think that's the and then I found it interesting. I went, looked at the website, and then I saw that they had some specific values, and then I just wrote to them. So I also just write to people when I feel
Hmm.
like this is a good, it feels right, it feels like they're doing something
Hmm.
நம்மளுக்கு remotely connected இருக்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கு அப்படின்னு நினைச்சாலே I
Hmm.
think I'll write to those people. சும்மா I just
Hmm.
write to them, not wanting something, but
Hmm.
if there's a scope for it. I mean, that's how
Hmm.
we also met, I think. La, I just wrote
Yeah.
to you or something like that on Instagram, I think.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it is quite daunting to think about
Hmm.
it now, that from some part of the world now connected to some other part of the world, and then now going to another part of the world. It feels a
Hmm.
bit what, but when it's happening, I think it just keeps flowing more. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so when you were, so is the work that you were doing at like Satyam Cinemas and all, like is it like in any way like connected to like the work that you're doing now? Because in that there was like a lot of like food science stuff that was happening behind the scenes and all that. Were you part of that, or were you part of like a different team?
No, I was part of the team that was kind of doing the research on what was happening,
Ha.
about projects that weren't even that may or may not have gone, might have attained fruition. So it was still
Oh,
ideas
okay.
that were like
Lot of
developing.
prototype projects. Okay.
Yeah, or like just thinking about new projects and or ideas, or being able to develop them into something. I think
Hmm.
for sure that set the basis of what kind of people you want to work with. So maybe it's not
Hmm.
directly connected to the work itself, but in terms of
Hmm.
values, I think it helped me understand. நீ
Right.
வந்து இப்போ புதுசா if you're starting in an industry, like you can't say
Hmm.
எனக்கு வந்து 1.5 லட்ச ரூபாய் வேணும், like that. It's not how it works. It like
Yeah.
really beat the entitlement out of me. And it's not that I had a lot
Hmm.
of it, but it was also
Hmm.
the real world. It showed me what the real world was. It's very hard
Hmm.
to earn money. It's very hard to but there
Hmm.
are also people that actually went and got me my salary. They argued for me when I didn't even know. Like my boss was someone that
Hmm.
actually went and asked, no, she has to get this money. So I think
Hmm.
it just kind of set the tone for what was coming, perhaps,
Right. Yeah.
but not, of course, directly connected to everything, but it's all connected.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Now, yeah, like on a personal note, so how exactly do you even like get into coffee as a thing? Because everyone has their like own story. So, what is yours?
I don't know. Like, I always feel like it's such a. Mm, I think because coffee was a big part of all of us growing up, there was some uh, fascination for it, but it
Hmm.
was never. like I wouldn't think about sustainability or about gender
mm,
problems when I was here. Like I didn't even know that
mm,
coffee came from a cherry or that it
yeah,
had gender problems or anything. But
yeah,
I think
mm,
once there was an opportunity to think about these intersections, then it
mm.
felt like நம்ம வந்து அந்த அது ஒரு பிரச்சனைனே தெரியாது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எனக்கு. இப்போ அதுக்கு ஒரு சொல்யூஷனாவும் they are all finding அப்படிங்கும்போது இட்ஸ் லைக்
Mm.
ச்சே நம்ம என்ன இவ்ளோ மக்கா இருந்திருக்கோமா அப்படிதான் அப்படிதான் it felt.
But how are you like exposed to that intersection though? Like, what was your like
Because
first
I
experience with that?
I think in the university that I studied in the Netherlands,
Ah,
it's an agricultural, also like a life sciences university, and a
right.
lot of people were quite like radical in their activism. என்ன
Hmm.
ஆக்டிவிசமா இருந்தாலும் என்வாயர்மெண்ட்டாக இருக்கட்டும் இல்லை வந்து ஹியூமன் ரைட்ஸாக இருக்கட்டும் தேர்
Ah,
ஆக்டிவிசம் வாஸ் வெரி ஐடியல். லைக் இந்த மாதிரி தான் இருக்கணும்,
okay.
நீங்கள் என்ன இப்படி இருக்கீங்க அப்படின்னா
Mm.
எனக்கு அந்த மாதிரிலாம் இருக்கணும்னே ஃபர்ஸ்ட் தெரியாது. ஸோ அண்ட் தென் there were already people that
Yeah.
were like like also condemning you for being this way or like for whatever
Mm.
might be the problem. So I think that was
Mm.
the first, in one way or the other, I've always told some people that that place helped
Mm.
me dream.
Mm.
Like, oh, you're also someone that, and I wanted to quit many times, many times. I used to
Mm.
go to my study advisor every other week and I'll be like, no, I cannot do this. And she'll be like, okay, next week we'll think about it. Maybe okay. She always told me that I had the agency to quit. So I think maybe that
Mm.
helped to
Right.
think about giving it another chance. And when I
Mm.
giving it a chance, it always felt, oh, okay, it's going somewhere. This whole
Mm.
this whole journey itself. And I think the
Mm.
people that I worked with, also the professor, even though I accidentally ended up starting, not accidentally but not very consciously wanted to do
Mm.
coffee, I ended up finding two professors that were quite radical. Like this one person who's from Australia, who
Mm.
has also done work in coffee and rice and all the other commodities, but
Mm.
he's very radical. He
Right.
doesn't he knows what he's doing, why he's doing, where he has to do what. I mean, philosophy wise and technically also, he was very strong. And
Mm.
he asked questions that were hard, and he made me ask questions that were
Mm.
hard. So I think
Mm.
I was like, இது ஏதோ இருக்கு அப்படின்னே வந்து அது உள்ள போனாதான் தெரியும் for me. And I'm someone that that has to I don't know, that someone that has to be pushed into the deep end to understand. Oh, I can't swim. Like I can only learn that I don't know how to swim only when I'm in the deepest end. And then
Mm.
somehow find my way out. But I think that's
Mm.
what happened. That you're put into this little, or you have to do a thesis, you have to come up with something of your own, you have to do it within like, I don't
Mm.
know, half a year, blah blah blah.
Mm.
But it could also be something that you want to do. So then when there are all
Mm.
these boundary conditions and finally an option of what do I want,
Mm.
starting with coffee felt like, okay, it wasn't really serious, or it wasn't something that
Mm.
I always like social justice, but I did
Mm.
not know I would end
Mm.
up in this setup, or I would actually be working on it every
Mm.
day. Even
Right.
though it sometimes I have to be reminded, oh, okay, you're doing
Mm.
something that's, so for me it's very normal. Like, oh yeah, I'm working in
Yeah.
this. Of course, this is my job. Like, what do you mean it's not normal? But
Mm.
I've also
Yeah.
realized a lot of people are like, this is not normal. Like,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. It is quite a
As in
unique
normal and
like job
conventional.
description you have. No, no, I know what you
Right.
mean. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it is like unique compared to like any other like like because other job descriptions are simple. Like I can just say, yeah, I take photos, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or like things like that. But you seem to have like a lot of things going on with like a very you can't like just put a title to it. You do like a lot of things. Uh,
correct.
Now coming to the social justice side of things, that's not something like we really spoke about. So now how exactly does your like work like intersect with like the social justice part for, in terms of like the people that you work with?
Yeah, so coffee is something that people in the far upstream of the chain who are making the coffees
Mm,
are always underpaid, they're exploited, they don't get enough
mm,
money. And so at this side up, the whole approach towards being able to pay them for their coffee is by asking them what it
mm,
costs to make the coffee and
mm.
what do so it's based on cost of production and it's based
Okay.
on a margin that comes with it instead of
Mm,
looking into C price or looking into these baselines that are made by some dude
mm.
bros in coats and suits that don't even know the name of the farmer. So it's a
Mm,
very human approach, which that is also something that is not normal apparently in the
right.
industry.
Mm.
uh, it's uh,
Yeah,
it's better to
unfortunately.
trust like certifications and it's better to trust some piece of paper than asking someone how much do you want for your coffee. It's not normal,
Mm,
I learned.
mm,
uh, bu- um, so I think other way first point, other we are
mm.
paying people for what they are asking and how much they
Mm.
think is their coffee worth. And of course it's
Right.
not, nobody is going to be completely unreasonable. They're not going to say give me 20 euros or 50 euros or 100 euros because there is some logic to why they're
Mm.
asking that money. It has to be that they
Yeah.
have to cover their costs, they have to pay their
Mm.
workers, and then they have to
Mm.
probably eat food and then make their house better and
Mm.
whatever. It's all whatever we
Yeah.
do is what they also do. And
Mm.
there's also like um, a reason that it's not very high because next so we buy the
Mm.
coffee from them every year. So if they say
Mm.
20, 50 euros, next year
Mm.
nobody is going to come and buy it. Not us,
Mm.
but the people that buy from us. They're going to be like, no,
Mm.
we're going to go to someone else.
Right.
So there is
Mm.
some level, there is some baseline that, and there's some understanding of how a business works and what works in the
Mm.
market and all those things. Given all that,
Yeah.
it's
Mm.
about having a conversation and asking people what do they want. And
Mm.
we work with a lot of origins where they are extremely poor, and poverty
Mm.
alleviation is like one of the most important agendas in the coffee
Oh, okay.
space.
Mm.
In I don't know the work that we do. Climate
Mm.
change is another agenda, of course.
Okay.
Everything is going to shit these days because
Mm.
of climate
Yeah.
change.
100%. Yeah.
So like yeah, poverty and climate change are the most, and they both are
Mm.
connected to one another. It's not that this is an
Mm.
environmental agenda or social agenda, but a social agenda
Mm.
is an impact of the environmental agenda and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
Who's going to be affected when you know
Mm.
one of it goes to shit is them.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
think very aware of um, the politics behind it as well, the colonialism behind it
Mm.
as well,
Mm.
and yeah, the power structures behind it
Mm.
when we are operating. It's not despite it that we are
Mm.
operating, but it's because of it
Yeah.
that we are trying to, get
Mm.
trying people get out of it. So yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
that's
Like,
the
yeah, both like climate change and like poverty are caused kind of by the same system, no? And you're trying to like address the system rather than just like tackling them as like a separate issue. So yeah, that
correct.
makes a lot of sense. So how
Yeah.
exactly like do you like do with them in terms of the poverty or like alleviation or like helping with climate change part? Like how exactly do you do that?
Mainly, it's the economic impact. So, being able to pay
Hmm.
higher prices per kilogram of your
Right.
specialty coffee. And why
Hmm.
specialty coffee is because it is of a higher quality. That means that when the
Hmm.
quality or the cup score is higher, that means you
Hmm.
also get more money for your
Right.
kilogram of coffee. So
Hmm.
poverty,
Okay.
it's not to say that oh நான் இப்போ காசு கொடுத்துட்டா மட்டும் the poverty is not gonna be, you're not free of it,
Hmm.
because it's
Yeah.
not just more coffee, more money, but it's also being able
Hmm.
to have more land, being able to
Hmm.
have the money to invest in it, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty vicious cycle.
Mm,
So at least one of the things is this that you pay more
mm.
for your price. That's the basic, of course.
Right. Yeah.
And also we do for the Climate change, we ask our, so for every kilogram of coffee there is like 6 cents, 6 euro
Hmm.
cents that's allocated for
Okay.
regeneration. So the
Okay.
the roasters and whoever, they pay for this 6 cents, that's part of this whole
Hmm.
kilogram price. And this is then sent
Okay.
back to the origin so they can invest in more ecological areas. So they could
Okay.
do like soil tests, they could do things that are
Hmm.
related to improving the quality of the soil, or maybe
Hmm.
they do a little, like in Colombia they do like an agroforestry hub. So there
Okay.
they develop these biofertilizers that can be used not just by
Hmm.
them but by the entire community.
Okay.
So smaller things that are, and we also do projects like we have this basic income project that we do in Uganda. So
Hmm.
a basic income is everything that we have seen growing up. Pension is a basic income. நம்ம ஸ்கூலுக்கு
Hmm.
போகும்போது நம்மளுக்கு வந்து வீட்டில் சாப்பாடு போட்டு யூனிஃபார்ம் வாங்கி
Hmm.
கொடுத்து, everything that we
Hmm.
were when we were children were basic income. So
Hmm.
what if we are able
Right.
to
Yeah.
give what if we are able to give a community of 30 farmers basic income for 2 years? So we work with
Hmm.
another organization called eight. So they do this
Okay.
as their full-time job,
Ah.
is
Okay.
to set these up in like all especially
Hmm.
African countries. So we
Okay.
just help them find the money for this. And now with
Hmm.
yeah, so these kind of things that are not just buying coffee but everything around
Hmm.
coffee is
Yeah.
also something that we have to take
Hmm.
responsibility for.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just like a transaction here, right? You're not just like buying some like one part of like one raw material from them and then selling it off. It's like the entire business kind of depends on it. So it's important to like be in the weeds to make sure that that they're like for it to be sustainable for you, it has to also be sustainable for them. So you're trying to like find ways to like make it
correct.
so that's really like I think that's like really cool, the whole like like way that it's working, because it's very like community focused rather than it just being like a complete like cold business deals and stuff. So you said that you also like help find like money for these projects, so how exactly does that work? Like why are not why are more companies not doing what you're doing? Like it seems like it's like there is something there, some special sauce here.
Because it takes a lot of time
Hmm.
and takes a lot of effort to go beyond your actual work to make this
Hmm.
happen. And a lot of
Right.
them, I think a lot of the companies already think about sustainability itself as a, not as a mindset but as a extra thing to do. So when that is
Yeah.
already not a inherent quality, then
Hmm.
that means that you're not, you close your laptop after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And
Hmm.
it's not to say that you have to keep your laptop open until 12:30 in the night.
Hmm.
That's also bad and that's also not
Hmm.
good at all. But
Hmm.
it's being able to understand, like when I was having a conversation with someone from Rwanda about
Hmm.
child labor, and then they were saying, yeah,
Hmm.
but இங்க வந்து women who are pregnant அவங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு ஃபெசிலிட்டி இல்லை, நர்ஸ் கூட இல்லை, டாக்டர் கூட இல்லை. அப்புறம் எப்படி
Hmm.
அவங்களால வந்து கரெக்டா பர்த்லாம் கொடுக்க முடியும்? மால் நியூட்ரிஷனா இருக்கு. ஆனாலும் அவங்க வேலை பார்த்தா
Hmm.
தான் வந்து அவங்களுக்கு சோறு. ஸோ அவங்க வேலையும்
Okay.
பார்க்கணும், அவங்க வந்து குழந்தையும்
Hmm.
பார்க்கணும் அப்படின்னா, அப்புறம்
Hmm.
it gets very hard. So what could have
Hmm.
been a solution is maybe building some kind of a social room where
Hmm.
people can take care of each other's kids while the mother's going and working, or maybe there's a doctor and a nurse that you can put there.
Hmm.
And that got us thinking, like like me and my colleague Karina, we have
Hmm.
we have the moolai to write it. We just don't know what we have to
Hmm.
use it for. So now there was a
Hmm.
clear, and there's cooperation from this origin. Also, like people that we work with,
Hmm.
they are, yeah, I call Antoine and I'm like, hey, what, can you tell me how many people are there? Da, 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 da. And then he gives me all this information and then he writes it with us.
Hmm.
So I think it's being, I think it's um, uh, wanting to serve something bigger than yourself. I don't know, it
Hmm.
sounds very meta, but I think it's this
Hmm.
it's a very, for me it's a desperate uh discomfort if they are not, if people
Hmm.
are not being helped. Like I
Hmm.
so I need to, like, whatever I can,
Hmm.
I will do. And this is something
Hmm.
that I can do. And there are
Hmm.
more people in the company that are eh, like,
Hmm.
if they can, they would
Hmm.
also pitch in. But there's also someone that does projects, especially with us. So அவளும் நானும் we
Hmm.
sit together and then figure it out. பட் இதனால எனக்கு
Okay.
வந்து பெருசா காசு அப்படியே நான் வந்து அப்படியே நெக்ஸ்ட் பிக் திங்லாம் ஆக போறது இல்ல. அண்ட் எனக்கு அது
Hmm.
இன்ட்ரெஸ்டும் இல்ல. ஸோ ஐ திங்க்
Hmm.
ஆல் தீஸ் திங்ஸ் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் cumulatively lead up to wanting
Hmm.
to commit to something, I think.
Hmm.
And maybe that is not norm, that's not um, traditional in like general companies that say
Hmm.
already. I mean, a lot of my
Hmm.
friends are who work in corporates already are
Hmm.
crying because they're not being paid enough, or they're being exploited, or they're
Hmm.
being whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
And I'm a bit like, these are not real problems, really. But அவங்களுக்கு that's their problem. So we can't,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think it's being having the wanting to have the space to wanting to have the, I don't know, ability to look beyond just your
Hmm.
problems in life.
Okay. Would you say like that's part of the company value, or are these projects something that that you pushed for and like got done?
Absolutely, it's part of the company's value. It's
Okay.
a company that was also, I don't know, everybody that works really wants to be able to serve the organism, which is the company.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
company and the company is not the people, but it has a life
Hmm.
of its own. It has a, it has a,
Hmm.
yeah, it has a life of its own. So it's breathing
Hmm.
and it's living. So when you have to serve
Hmm.
it, you need to know what it needs. And so maybe I'm doing it from projects or
Hmm.
bringing the money in so the community can get it, but somebody else is in the company is doing it in a different way. But everybody is
Hmm.
doing the same thing from different
Working
areas of
towards the same goal.
expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to, yeah, coming back to that money part, so how do you like help find like money to like fund these things? How does that work? How does that process work?
I think I mean, I'm also quite new to this, but
Okay.
we wrote a grant
Hmm.
from the Dutch government for a social
Hmm.
sustainability project.
Okay.
And we got rejected two times. And then the third
Hmm.
time, like, we didn't get rejected. The first time, I think we didn't put enough effort. The second time, after we sent everything, they actually said we don't have money left.
Oh.
And then
Okay.
the third time we were like, okay,
Hmm.
அதை வந்து லிட்டரலா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டே ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஷோ டிக்கெட் வாங்குற மாதிரி அந்த டைமுக்கு அந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் ஓப்பன் ஆனோடனே யூ ஹவ் டு சென்ட் இட். அப்போதான் வந்து யூ வில்
Right.
பி இன் த கியூ அப்படின்ட்டு. ஸோ இந்த
Huh. You had
வாட்டி
to
வந்து
find them at the right time
கரெக்டா,
of the year and everything. Yeah.
ஆமா, லைக் கரெக்டா லிட்டரலா
Hmm.
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எஃப்டிஎஃப்எஸ் மாதிரி தான். இப்போ யோசிச்சா அப்படிதான் இருக்கு எனக்கு. அந்த டைம்க்கு அந்த பட்டனை கிளிக் பண்ணி அந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் அனுப்பிச்சதுனால ஐ திங்க் ஃபைனலா. ஆனா நிறைய பியூரோக்ரசி புல்ஷிட். இவங்க என்ன
Hmm.
பண்ண போறாங்க, அவங்க என்ன பண்ண போறாங்க, இது ஏன் பண்ணணும், அது ஏன் பண்ணணும். அண்ட் when I think about it
Hmm.
now, I'm like, they all ask this question because they also have some boss above them.
Hmm.
But thankfully, or not thankfully, we are our own bosses, so it gets a bit tricky in that moment. But
Okay.
yeah, I think it's just
Hmm.
looking
Okay.
at trying to match
Hmm.
what is the need and how much you need, and then
Okay.
finding
So
it
does it?
online.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, when it comes to these projects, does it always work with like the respective government's help, or do you also like privately like fund these?
Depends. So one or two things that we have been able to do it as this side up.
Okay.
Um, but it also depends. So one of the things I learned was all colonizing countries actually
Hmm.
have funds for the countries that they colonized. So, for example,
Hmm.
UK always has some kind of a fund for India, or
Hmm.
for example, Belgium has a fund for Congo. So
Okay.
these were also very, I didn't know this at all, but
Hmm.
this is how the governments also work. So they do
Hmm.
have like the Rwandan government, like Dutch governments want to do something for Rwanda. ஆஹ்
Hmm.
இப்ப பார்க்கும்போது ஓ செமையா இருக்கே அப்படி இருக்கும். ஆனா ஆக்சுவலா பார்த்தா இதோட
Hmm.
hundreds of years of colonialism is the price that they are paying now through
Right.
all these initiatives. It's
Right.
not good or it's not bad, but okay, it's
Yeah.
reprimand is happening. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the
Okay. Interesting. So, but that's like nice that you were able to like find these loopholes to actually like help, because like yeah, I also like didn't know that this was even like a thing. I was like, why would they like why would this random country want to like give this other country some money for like coffee of all things? Like why would the government care about this? But interesting. So, what
not
kind of
just
case did you
coffee. I
have to
think
make?
just agriculture, but yeah,
Ha. Okay. Right.
it is because
But
they
huh.
um
No, no. Go ahead. You finish what you saying.
no, it is because they once upon a time did things that they were not supposed to do in these countries. So
Oh, okay. So, but then, like, what's the mindset, like, behind this? Like, why would they even do this in the first place?
அதான் reprimands like இது வந்து ஒரு என்ன it's
For
gonna
better
be good.
relationships with the countries?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
it,
right.
it is a way to I think heal எல்லாம் சொல்ல மாட்டேன், but
A peace
it's
offering,
something along that
right?
direction.
Okay, right. Huh. Yeah, interesting. So, now when it comes to like the one that you are like currently like working on, so what kind of claims did you have to make to like convince them to like approve this project, for example? Because I'm sure it has like a lot of moving parts. So, what was the whole process like? Like, what did you even go to them with?
No, we had to write a full proposal. We had to do a impact analysis. I mean, an assessment of why is this
Hmm.
important, and they also had their own themes of like child labor or living income
Hmm.
or
Okay.
I think regeneration or climate change and so
Hmm.
adula whatever fit our problem was these the living income and the child labor and being able to want to make it better,
Hmm.
and there was already a case for it that people are
Okay.
um, not not doing well. And
Hmm.
ஏன்னா அதான் நான் சொன்னதுலாம் தான் அவங்க அவங்க இடத்துல வந்து ஒரு நர்ஸ் இல்லை, ஒரு டாக்டர் கூட இல்லை. இவங்க
Hmm.
இதுதான். ஆனா இட்ஸ் நாட் the fault of the cooperative, for example, but அந்த social situation அந்த மாதிரி தான். ஸோ
Hmm.
இவங்க என்ன பண்ணாலும், ஸோ the cooperative has been able to sustain itself for like so many years now because they were
Hmm.
able to build up themselves
Hmm.
with whatever resources they had, that they can sell a lot of coffee there. They are able to
Hmm.
export like up to 13, 14 containers of coffee. So that means that they
Okay.
have the technical expertise, they have
Hmm.
the they have credentials and credibility, but what they don't
Okay.
have is the capacity. They have all these three things, they don't have the cash.
Okay.
So being able to
Hmm.
prove that was very easy because we work with these partners, we know them personally, and they are
Hmm.
they're
Yeah.
always on these calls, and they can
Hmm.
say, "Ama." It's not just like, "Ama, ama, avanga solradhu correct," but they can give actual examples. So
Right.
it is fairly easier to make the case. It's just what happens after the case of the
Hmm.
logistics and being able to yeah, navigate the bureaucracy is the bigger.
Okay.
I mean, I've never done anything like this before, but my colleague has worked in an NGO and she knows all about it. So I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes we complement each other because I mainly
Hmm.
work on getting the information, putting it together,
Hmm.
and she works also on coordinating some of the things. And அதெல்லாம் அவ
Right.
பண்ணும்போது என்ன அவளுக்கு நிறைய எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஒரு என்ஜிஓனா இப்படிதான் இங்கதான் பண்ணுவாங்க, இப்படிதான் இது பண்ணுவாங்க, இது இப்படிதான் பேசுவாங்க. ஸோ
Hmm.
எனக்கு இதெல்லாம் புதுசா இருந்தாலும் அவளுக்கு வந்து ஆமாம் இப்படிதான் இருக்கும் அப்படிதான் இருக்கும் கொஞ்சம் அப்படியே நேவிகேட் பண்ணி போயிடலான்ட்டு. ஸோ யா,
Hmm.
we come with different expertise, but we have the same intention. So therefore, it,
Right.
I think,
Can
complemented
collaborate to
us
like
to
do the
being able to,
same thing.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
So like what? So you just mentioned that this like new project like got like approved. So can you tell us like more about it? What you're planning to like do with in during this project?
First, we have to think about how to set up a baseline study to understand
Okay.
what's happening there
Hmm.
regarding um, uh, what's happening there qualitatively, like who are these women, what do they want, how what kind of
Hmm.
support is expected out of this, and all that, some
Hmm.
statistics, and being able to set that up. And then
Hmm.
I think setting up the social room itself is the project for the next 3 years.
Okay.
What kind of infrastructure does it need inside it? What kind of people, like a doctor, a
Hmm.
nurse, and being able to assess those things. And then once
Hmm.
it's functional, seeing how is it actually changing, is it actually giving people more relief, இது
Hmm.
இருக்கிறதுனால என்னால
Right.
கொஞ்சம் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா சம்பாதிக்க முடியுதா, இல்ல வந்து
Hmm.
இதனால இதனால என்ன, ஏன் ஏன் இது வந்து ரியல் லைஃப்ல எப்படி இது வந்து ஒருத்தங்களோட
Hmm.
வாழ்க்கையை மாத்துது, அதெல்லாம் வந்து ட்ராக்
Hmm.
பண்றது, அத பத்தி வந்து
Oh.
யூனோ டாக்குமெண்ட் பண்றது, அதெல்லாமும் ஐ திங்க் வில்
Hmm.
ஹேப்பன் parallelly. So
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
is what I
Okay.
think.
So this
Maybe
is
there's
good.
more. Even I don't know that.
Okay.
I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure you'll find out. But this seems like a one for the long run. Like things will probably reveal themselves as like you go. But
yeah,
but then so the way it works is so you're going in with the intention of like just finding out exactly what they need in order to like set these things up.
we have a rough idea of what they need, and how
Ha.
many people are there, and we know the basic stuff. But now it's
Okay.
time to dig a little deeper and understand the what nuances are required. What,
Okay.
yeah, it's like the second step towards
Hmm.
being able to set this up efficiently.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, but this think like this is like really nice because instead of going into save the people like it's kind of just asking them what they actually like want to like actually like empower them this way because you might think that oh they just need more money but they might not they might just need like better systems for certain things like you said like because you don't like really understand like what a community needs unless you're actually like there and like talking to them and seeing how they live and all that. So yeah, I think this is like really like cool as part of your work that you're doing. This is like yeah, honestly this is like quite new to even like hear about, so I'm sure it's like really cool to like be like working on these things. Yeah. So like uh are you like excited to like go forward with this? What do you think will happen in terms of like your work?
I don't know. I think for the first time, very recently, maybe a few weeks ago, we have all these colleagues who
Hmm.
also have similar profiles and this and that. That
Hmm.
I don't talk to most any of them actually. I mean, colleagues
Hmm.
outside the company. I mean, who are doing the same
Hmm.
job.
Right.
ஆனா எப்பயோ ரீசெண்டா ஒருத்தர்கிட்ட பேசும்போது அவர் வந்து கரெக்டா நான் அவர்கிட்ட இதுக்கோ அட்வைஸ்க்கோ ஏதோ போனேன். ஏன்னா
Hmm.
அவர் வந்து யூஸ் டு ஒர்க் இந்த கவர்மெண்ட் பிஃபோர்.
Hmm.
அதனால எப்படி இந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட பத்தி சும்மா கேட்கறதுக்கு போகும்போது அவர் வந்து என்கிட்ட டக் டக்குன்னு சொன்னாரு. எப்படி இத வந்து பார்க்கணும், ஏன் பார்க்கணும், ஆல்சோ வித் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் டு measuring something. How many
mm,
people are going to be impacted by it? How can
mm,
you show this? Why should you show that? Abdi Abdina, he said some. He
mm,
just laid it out for me. And அப்பதான் I
okay.
felt for the first time, oh, இதான் நம்ம வேலை போல. As in, it too deep into it that I know
Mm,
this is my வேலை. And I do
mm,
it. And a lot of times I'm still, even though it's going to be 2 years, no, I'm going to enter my, yeah, third year in Jan
mm,
with the side up. No, second year. Uh,
mm,
I feel like it's still a very new job in
mm,
term I mean, even though we understand இதெல்லாம் பண்ணணும், இதெல்லாம் வெளில வரணும், இதெல்லாம் எடுத்துட்டு வரணும், we
mm,
don't know what more is there, what are the,
mm.
how much more can this be, unless we
Yeah.
to
Mm,
talk to these people, talk to everybody
mm,
in the
mm,
space. ஸோ
mm,
அப்படி இருக்கும்போது எனக்கு இப்போதான் ஒரு 1.5 வருஷம் கழிச்சு, ஆர் நாட் 1.5 வருஷம், I've been in the coffee space for like 5 years. ஸோ மேபி
mm,
ஒரு 5.5 வருஷம் கழிச்சு ஐ வாஸ் லைக், ஓ, இப்படிதான் இருக்கும் போல அப்படின்ட்டு.
mm,
பட் ஐ ஸ்டில் டோன்ட் நோ how it's going to evolve, or what
mm,
my, I don't know what the path
mm,
is, but I know there is something.
okay. Uh, so you said you have been in the coffee space for like 5.5 years now. So before you started like working for the setup, what else were you doing in the coffee space? Like when you were still, in the Thai nod.
I was from here. I was working with the university that I studied in
Hmm.
the Netherlands.
Ha.
And I was
Ha.
doing some research work, and I
Ha.
we wrote a report actually that's published
Hmm.
about the true pricing of coffee. So adila we were
Okay.
capturing what are the social and the environmental elements
Oh,
generally that
okay.
are present in
Hmm.
the, then we wrote a little report on it.
Hmm.
I've also tried to be a barista, but that's never worked
Hmm.
out for me. Sometimes I succeeded. I think எனக்கு
Ha.
பொறுமை இல்லைன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் பரிஸ்தாவா இருக்கிறதுக்கு.
Hmm.
I've also tried to manage a cafe for like a few months,
Hmm.
like setting it up from the scratch with setting it up na coordinating the logistics of setting it up.
Okay.
Um,
Which one was this?
Coffee since
No, no.
1999.
Oh, right. Okay. He spoke a
It
lot
was
about
called
coffee, so
coffee.
wanted you to be more specific. Right.
It was
Uh,
called coffee, so it is called
right.
coffee.
Okay. Got it.
Um, yeah, so that, and then I've also interned in a roastery when I was in my master's because I had to
Hmm.
intern as a part of my course. And there
Hmm.
also I worked on something related to due diligence as a company. So what kind of
Okay.
risks, social risks and environmental risks do you avoid? Or how do you
Hmm.
basically set up a system to understand it, if not avoid it, of course.
Right.
So yeah.
Hmm. Okay. This looks
So
like they really like set you up for the work that you're like currently doing.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even if I wouldn't, I mean, I never knew that I would end up here, but yeah.
Hmm. Right. Very nice. 'Cause this was like a great chat. I feel like you've just hopped around and like tried and done like so many different things because you're also like a comedian and like also like a drama artist and everything. So, like it's kind of like never let them know your next move types. That's how your life is.
எனக்கே
Can't
நெக்ஸ்ட்
guess
மூவ்
like what you're
தெரியாது.
doing next.
அதனால அடுத்தவங்களுக்குலாம் தெரிய வாய்ப்பில்ல.
Yeah, makes sense. So if people want to like find out more about like the products that they are working on, so where should they like reach out to you?
I like with the coffee company, it's the website,
Okay.
thesideUp.coffee.
Hmm.
With the other things, I don't know, WhatsApp.
Okay, I'm not gonna dox you, so I think people can maybe find your Instagram or something, so you can
Yeah,
uh
fair
tell
enough.
them your Instagram.
Oh, I have to tell them my Instagram. Oh my God, I hate this.
Um,
I never do that. I judge people for telling them their Instagram. But it's okay, but my
okay,
Instagram is called
it's
Puliyodare.
optional for you to plug if you want. So
I just did. Puliyodare, it's called.
okay, thank you so much for making time for the episode. I really appreciate it. That was a very insightful conversation for me, and I'm sure our listeners as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.